Welcome to This Explainer. When you hear the title The Clock of the Long Now, you might naturally assume, okay, this is a book about clocks. But it's not. The Clock of the Long Now is actually a diagnosis of the sickness of hurry. The Clock of the Long Now asks why we, smart, capable people, are living our lives like startled animals. We've brought the Clock of the Long Now into our Upwise practice because it hits right at a hidden wound of self-mastery. We kind of just assume our main problem is that we aren't moving fast enough, right? Well, this explainer is going to completely flip that assumption on its head.
Look at that idea on screen. Most exhaustion is not caused by too much work. The author behind this framework, Stuart Brand, absolutely does not flatter our obsession with speed. Stuart Brand actually studies it like a fever. He looks at us and sees a culture full of bright screens, weak memories, and just zero shelter for patience. And here is the massive reality slap he delivers right out of the gate. Your exhaustion, it's actually a time horizon collapse. It is caused by living inside a time frame that's just way too small for your soul. You aren't tired because you're doing too much. You're tired because you're thinking too short.
We call this temporal myopia. Literally, your nervous system is trapped in a near-term threat loop. A lot of us cling to this totally false belief that intensity equals control. We think, hey, if I just stay intense, I'll stay on top of things. But your body knows the truth way before your mind even admits it. Your jaw locks up, your breathing gets shallow, your entire day turns into a room with no windows. The overarching goal of this explainer, and what we've been building toward, is the architecture of the self. And to do that, we have to stop shrinking time. We need to give your life some room to actually breathe.
So, I want to ask you, what time frame were you serving? I really want you to think about a specific moment in your life. Try to recall a time when you answered a message instantly or made a super quick snap decision, just to feel safe from someone's judgment. Put yourself right back in that memory for a second. Were you serving the next decade of your life, or just the next minute? Just looking for that next quick escape. We fall into this trap of constant urgency. When every single task feels like a 5-alarm fire, your nervous system stops ranking the flames. It just decides to burn the whole house down to prove it's awake.
Look at this shift. The clock is a whip versus the clock as a covenant. Society trains us to view time as a pressure cooker, right? A whip that just forces us to perform, turning time into pure crushing pressure. But the much deeper model is viewing the clock as a covenant that flips time into a responsibility. The deep exhaustion we all feel happens when the performance literally eats the person performing. You know the feeling. Your face might still hold its shape, you're still firing off messages, but deep inside, the future just feels like a giant unpayable debt.
Beneath any given moment, there's actually a whole stack of time. Stuart Brand maps this out beautifully into what he calls pace layers. Just listen to this natural progression: minute, day, season, decade, lifetime, civilization. Things like fashion, they move fast. Commerce moves a bit slower. Infrastructure, slower still. Culture moves like deep, heavy water. And nature? Well, nature moves with a patience that makes our daily panic look incredibly brief. The real tragedy happens when a fast layer, like say a minute-by-minute phone notification, is allowed to completely overrule a deep layer, like a lifetime vow. Fast learns, slow remembers. It's absolutely crucial to understand that different layers move at different speeds, and a healthy mind genuinely needs both. The fast layers bring us learning and rapid innovation, for sure. But the slow layers, they bring stability and profound meaning. A life completely falls apart when your passing moods start governing your vows, or when your inbox governs your health, or when volatile markets govern your core identity. You are not exhausted because you lack drive. No way. You are exhausted because your drive has absolutely no temporal architecture to support it. Architecture. Think about a cathedral for a second. A massive stone cathedral doesn't stand for centuries just because one worker felt really enthusiastic on a Tuesday afternoon. It stands because the physical weight actually finds a load path. Well, human life survives the exact same way. Without deep structural load paths, all your ambition just turns into a collapse. If you just stay intense all the time, you aren't really in control. Honest truth, intensity without structure is usually just fear wearing a better costume. Now, I want you to imagine a massive physical clock designed to tick for 10,000 years. A brass gear tooth turning silently inside a hollowed-out mountain. This isn't just some neat, literal machine. It's a profound moral rebuke to our short-term appetites and our desperate, constant need for applause. The short mind is always asking, what can I get by Friday? But the long mind asks, what must I protect beyond my own name? Those two questions, they do not produce the same kind of person. This brings us to maintenance ethics. The clinical definition is the care for what keeps future action possible. Think about geography.
A river cuts through solid stone not by rushing or panicking, but just by staying in motion. It keeps contact without the hurry. Maintenance isn't glamorous. It's not going to get you likes or retweets. It is simply love with its sleeves rolled up. We're constantly sold this lie that the future belongs to the fastest mind, but in reality, the future belongs to the mind that knows how to maintain.
So let's make this personal. I have to ask you directly, name one demand you obeyed simply because your horizon was too small. Think deeply about the neglected threads in your own life right now, the unmade apologies, the skipped health checkups you just stepped right over because you were in such a rush. Short time calls that efficiency, but long time calls it incredibly expensive. We sell out our foundational structures just for the sake of speed, spending our bodies like loose change and somehow calling that depletion loyalty. Look at this breakdown. Performance is weather, but identity is climate. This right here is exactly how we heal. You have got to separate your daily output from your actual self. If you forget this, every single little storm feels like your entire identity is failing. Every missed task feels like a total exile, and every slow day feels like some kind of moral failure. But remember, performance is just passing weather. Your identity, your long-term commitments, that is the climate. Which leads us to a very specific, clinical mistake, layer violation. That's when a fast layer overrules a deep layer. Think about this logically for a second. It is a massive layer violation to let your inbox, which speaks in mere minutes, violate your physical health, which speaks in years. Trust speaks across scars, meaning speaks across generations. Confusing these different voices is exactly how smart, incredibly capable people break down. Your room has no windows because your future has been narrowed down to a single, immediate demand.
So the real intervention here is a time audit. You need to ask yourself, what actually must be answered now? What needs to be maintained monthly? What must be built for years? And what must never be sold for cheap applause? Think about elite endurance athletes to break the spell here. The absolute best runners don't sprint up every single hill. They guard the system. They win the race by spending less panic per mile. Adopting long-term thinking isn't a delay, it is moral pacing. Think. Generational stewardship is all about making decisions for people who cannot yet thank you. You see, you aren't just managing your daily energy, you are managing an inheritance. Your next choice enters a lineage. Your daily habits become ancestors to your future. Keeping faith with what cannot yet thank you is arguably the ultimate test of character. You don't have to withdraw from life. You just have to stop letting urgency write the Constitution.
Stop making your life smaller than your time. That mountain clock we talked about earlier, it isn't just a cool thought experiment. It's a mirror for your daily choices. Before your next yes, pause and ask what layer it serves. Before the next rush, ask what it erodes. You don't need to escape time, you need to deepen it. You need a present wide enough to hold duty, repair, patience, and absolute joy. This philosophy really demands practice. Think about astronomy for a second. The light from a star arrives long after the source itself has fundamentally changed. Well, so do our choices, so do our habits, and so do the wounds we refuse to pass forward. Deep dive the philosophy at upgowise.com. Don't just treat it as a neat idea to admire, but use it as a practice to test tomorrow morning. Protect one future self from today's fear. Refuse one false emergency. Slow is the deepest power. When we finally lengthen the present, we stop shrinking our lives. Just let that unhurried realization settle in for a moment. The deepest power isn't found in the rush. It's found in the architecture you leave behind.